having a job is kind of like a relationship. And if you're new to the field, it might feel like you're in shark-infested waters. And that's okay. I'm here to give you some tips and tricks about how to navigate your first career job. My name is Maria, and it has been 1 year since I have graduated PA school, and I have been practicing psychiatry for about 7 months now. This is my own personal advice, so if you like it, give me a thumbs up and you can subscribe, and if you don't, I guess don't use any of the advice I give you. Tip number one, I would say tip number one is probably the most important thing. And you might be thinking that it's pay wage, but no, it's actually not pay wage. That is not the most important thing. The number one most important thing is, are you going to be having a supportive collaborative physician and a supportive work environment? That is one of the most important things to look for in any sort of job, in any place that you're in. If you are at a job where you are absolutely afraid to ask questions, feel stupid asking questions, and you are not being supported in your growth as a newly graduated PA, and you are being thrown to see a bajillion patients a day, guess what? You're not being appropriately supported. A newly graduated PA, such as myself, really needs a lot of support. And here's why. Because medicine is very vast. There is always so much to learn, and you will need help. You will have thousands of questions, and that's totally okay, because that's what's expected. But you have a pretty solid foundation. You just need a little bit of push and a little bit of confidence to get there, and a supportive work environment is going to give you that. I myself have a very supportive work environment, and that was my number one criteria. I did not want to be in shark-infested waters. I did not want to see a billion patients my very first day by myself and have no one to go to. Your collaborating physician, especially as a new grad, should be available to you at all times. Or someone who is capable and has been working there should be available to you, especially if you have questions. Because guess what? Patients' lives are in your hands. Patients trust you that you are going to make the best medical decision for them. And that is very, very important. So that's my number one advice, is finding a supportive and collaborating physician. Now, you might be wondering, gosh, Maria, how do I know if my work environment is going to be supportive and collaborative and helpful? That's a really good question, because how are you supposed to know, right? Sometimes you're guessing, but you can ask the employees there. You can literally look up, that company. So let's say you got interviewed at a big company. Type in that company on LinkedIn, see the PAs there, see the APPs there, whoever it may be. See how long they've been working there. And my kind of rule of thumb is, if there's been an APP, a PA or a nurse practitioner, whoever it is, for about more than a year, and I kind of give them a thumbs up. I give them like, oh, this is great. There's been a PA that's been working there for 2+ years, 3 years, and there's been multiple, then I know it's a great environment, because people don't stay at crappy work environments, especially PAs. We have a lot of flexibility in our job, and we are in demand, so we can pretty much go anywhere. So be mindful of that, and always look for a supportive environment. One question I would ask is, how long is your training? When do you expect me to see patients? How many patients a day are you expecting me to see? Hours like? Am I going to be on call? Am I going to be working weekends? Am I working by myself? Am I the only provider in the office? And believe it or not, there have been times where I've heard that PAs have been interviewed and they quickly take the job because they're so excited, because the pay sounds great and the benefits sound great, and there's even like a $10,000 sign-on bonus, just to find out they're a new grad and they're the only provider in the office. And it happens, right? So don't let that happen to you. It's absolutely terrifying. All right, the second thing, non-competes, right? So what is a non-compete? A non-compete is essentially a job telling you, hey, you can't work at this certain place within a certain radius of our company or clinic or hospital, right? So that might sound like, if you're working in dermatology or primary care, hey, you can't work in another primary care office within 5 miles of our clinic while you're working here. And if you quit our clinic, then you can't work within 5 miles of our clinic for 2 years. The best non-compete is no non-compete. So if you can find a place that has no non-compete, I would say that's a good option for you. But if that is not an option for you, I would definitely negotiate non-competes. Don't ever go into a non-compete where it's very unreasonable, and you, with all your critical thinking skills and everything that you learned in PA school, you will be able to pick out what is a unreasonable non-compete. So something like, while you're working here, you can't work in any primary care office 30 miles from within our clinic, and then after you quit, or if you're fired, you can't work for another 2 years 30 miles. Like, that's ridiculous, right? Like, then you're just, what's gonna happen? Are you not gonna be able to pay your bill? You're gonna lose your house? Like, that cannot happen. Well, you always look into the contract. That's important too, a non-compete. The third thing that I would like to mention, of course, I totally forgot about this, pay wage, right? How do you know you're getting appropriately paid? In order to know if you're being paid appropriately is, one, to look up the AAPA report, salary report, and potentially if your state organization has that, a lot of the times they have their wage salary report, right? So your wage can be negotiable. So for example, in the state of Michigan, the average new graduate, I'm completely guessing, it might be $95,000, right? As a new grad, the job offers you, hey, we'll give you $95,000, right? That might sound okay, but then you also have to look into benefits, right? Because that's important too. Health insurance is important. That's all very expensive, right? And if a clinic offers you, hey, we'll pay you $95,000 because that's the average PA wage, but we're not going to give you any health insurance, no, because that's not good, right? Like, as you know, in the United States, medical care is very expensive. We know this, right? So yeah, be mindful of that. Also be mindful of, if a job offers you a really, really high salary, but there's no vacation days. So great, you're making maybe $150,000 a year, but you have to work 365 days a year, 10-hour shifts. Like, what's the point, right? So I would say definitely look into all of it holistically, right? So salary is important, but benefits are important, and PTO is important. Does your job offer you a 403B? Do they offer you a 403B plus match? Like life insurance and disability and short-term insurance, short-term disability, those are. The fourth thing, I would say the first place to look for jobs are, from your clinical rotation sites, right? Because how great would it be if you loved a rotation, they were hiring, and you were already trained there. You already know the system, you already know the people, you know how things work, you know how the clinic is run. Like, you're a catch. Why would they hire somebody who hasn't done it, right? Then they have to go find someone, train them, blah, 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 right? So look into your clinical rotations. That's the best way to look. The second best way is, through word of mouth, right? I would say through any other PAs, like, hey, where are you working? Are they hiring? Do you like it? The third thing is, LinkedIn or Indeed. Those are really great options. And through LinkedIn and Indeed, you have the option to search up those companies on, I think, Glassdoor, and look at the reviews, etc., etc. So there are so many options for you. The last thing that I want to talk about today is, I think this is really important. This is super duper important. And maybe I'll post a bunch of links where this has happened. Making sure that your employer is ethical, right? We have heard horror stories, like absolute horror stories for Medicare and Medicaid fraud. Be mindful of that. It happens. We had a PA in our class who had told us the biller for that clinic was up-billing on that individual's services. So for example, if they billed a 91212, they would uptick it to a 213, right? And that is so scary, and it happens very frequently, and you can go to jail for that. You lose your license, and you might not even know it. As a new grad, you can be taken advantage of very, very easily, unethical or something that seems sketchy, I would, one, lawyer up, and two, try to leave. Like, it happens and it's very scary. So I think that would be the number one most important thing, is making sure that the company that you're being hired in is an ethical company, right? All right, well, that's all I have for today. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. And if you have lots of questions, feel free to put them below. And if you're a veteran PA and you have more advice, put them below. All right, it was wonderful talking to you guys. I hope I'll see you soon.